As we step closer to 2025, the world seems to be spiraling into chaos. Wars, pandemics, natural disasters, and even shifts in global power are no longer just theoretical ideas, they are becoming our new reality. Every headline feels like a wake-up call. A warning that the systems we've relied on for so long are beginning to crumble. Political tensions are escalating at an alarming rate. The climate crisis is accelerating faster than scientists predicted. And technological advancements, while remarkable, are sparking fears of unchecked surveillance and control. But what if I told you that 2025 might be even worse than 2024? This isn't just about what could happen, it's about what will happen if we don't take the signs seriously. History has shown us time and time again that ignoring early warnings leads to disastrous consequences. In this video, we're diving deep into 10 chilling predictions that could shape our world in unimaginable ways. From devastating pandemics to unprecedented natural disasters and the rise of AI-driven tyranny. The events on this list aren't just possibilities, they're stark reminders of how fragile our world truly is. Make sure to watch until the end because what's coming might change how you see the future forever. It's not just about fear, it's about understanding what lies ahead so we can prepare, adapt, and, most importantly, survive. Before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all the important events shaping our world. By doing so, you'll join a community dedicated to staying informed and spreading awareness in these uncertain times. Now, let's explore the dark road ahead, where each step takes us closer to a future both terrifying and transformative. What happens next is up to all of us. Will we rise to the challenge? Or will we succumb to the chaos? Stay tuned to find out. In December 2024, an alarming event unfolded in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Early reports described a mysterious disease emerging with symptoms resembling the common flu, headaches, mild fever, and fatigue. These symptoms would typically subside after a few days, leading many to believe they had recovered. However, what was truly alarming was that, shortly after, some cases rapidly deteriorated, with individuals experiencing multi-organ failure and death within 48 hours. Experts are still trying to identify the exact nature of this virus. But it has sparked fears of a global pandemic that could be even worse than the COVID-19 outbreak in 2019. One of the most concerning factors is the speed at which the disease spreads. The first cases were reported in a small village in Congo. But within a matter of weeks, similar cases began popping up in neighboring countries, prompting international health organizations to issue warnings. What makes this new strain of virus more dangerous than past ones is its ability to lie dormant within the human body. Scientists have indicated that the virus can hibernate after its initial phase, only to activate later, typically leading to death. This not only makes early detection difficult, but also allows it to spread undetected. Moreover, initial tests conducted in hospitals in Congo showed no unusual results during the early phase, which led to many people underestimating the seriousness of the situation. Some experts have drawn parallels between this outbreak and the 2019 COVID-19 pandemic. But this time, the scenario could be much worse. When COVID-19 emerged, the world had some time to prepare and react. But with this new strain, time is not on our side. The world is already divided by conflicts, economic crises, and climate change. And the lack of coordination in global healthcare systems could exacerbate the situation, making it harder to control the spread of the virus. Imagine if this new disease were to spread to densely populated regions like India or China, where healthcare systems could easily become overwhelmed. In the worst-case scenario, This new strain could result in a death toll much higher than any previous pandemic. Some experts predict that without immediate containment measures, it could lead to millions of deaths within a matter of months. So, is the world ready for such a catastrophe? Unfortunately, many signs point to the fact that we are not. Countries have not yet learned enough from the lessons of COVID-19, particularly in terms of vaccine distribution, strengthening healthcare systems, and building international cooperation. This could create a critical gap in our ability to combat the new virus, allowing it to spread unchecked. What is happening in Congo is not just a warning, but a clear sign of the massive challenges humanity may face in 2025. If we fail to act quickly, not just one country or region, but the entire world could suffer catastrophic consequences. In the midst of this global chaos, the only thing we can do is seize the opportunity to unite, act together, and prepare for what's coming. Will we be able to prevent the worst-case scenario? Or will the upcoming pandemic mark the end of a world already fraught with instability? Only time will tell. But time is something we don't have on our side. As we face the potential of a devastating pandemic and ongoing geopolitical unrest, there is another looming threat that could overshadow everything: the rise of artificial intelligence. Not as a tool for progress, but as a force for control and oppression. In recent years, AI has made tremendous strides. But with this rapid growth comes an alarming question: what happens when AI is no longer in the hands of benevolent creators, but rather in the hands of authoritarian governments and corporations with unchecked power? 2025 could be the year that AI becomes the ultimate tool for surveillance, manipulation, and control on an unprecedented scale. Governments, desperate to maintain control over their populations in the face of economic collapse, health crises, and social unrest, could begin to deploy AI-driven systems that monitor every aspect of daily life. We've already seen glimpses of this with China's social credit system and facial recognition technology. But in the coming years, the reach of AI could extend even further. Imagine a world where AI is used not just for monitoring behavior, but for dictating who gets to work, who gets to travel, or even who is allowed to exist in society. This AI-driven tyranny could take many forms. One of the most concerning possibilities is the development of AI law enforcement, robotic or algorithm-driven systems that control law enforcement, criminal justice, and social behavior. These systems would be far more efficient than human counterparts, processing vast amounts of data in seconds, but without the nuances of human empathy or ethical considerations. If AI systems are allowed to replace human judgment, they could become instruments of brutal oppression, deciding guilt or innocence based on cold, impersonal data rather than understanding context, intent, or humanity. Another aspect of this potential AI dystopia is the complete erosion of privacy. AI has already begun to infiltrate our digital lives in ways that were once unimaginable. From targeted ads based on personal data to AI-generated content that can manipulate emotions and opinions, the digital landscape is becoming more and more controlled by algorithms. But what happens when those algorithms aren't just designed to sell products or influence elections, they are designed to control entire societies? Governments could use AI to manipulate entire populations through misinformation, false narratives, and even deepfakes that make it nearly impossible to distinguish truth from fiction. In a world where AI controls the narrative, the very concept of truth could become a casualty of war. The economic impact of AI tyranny could be equally devastating. As AI continues to evolve, many jobs that were once done by humans, drivers, factory workers, customer service representatives, and more, are being replaced by machines. By 2025, it's possible that millions of workers worldwide will find themselves unemployed, displaced by AI systems that perform tasks faster and cheaper. With mass unemployment, rising poverty, and a shrinking middle class, governments may turn to AI to manage the social chaos. But instead of offering solutions, AI could reinforce existing inequalities by creating a digital divide, those who control the AI systems, and those who are left behind. As AI becomes more integrated into the fabric of society, its role in the military could also escalate. Autonomous drones, robots, and other AI-controlled weapons could become the frontline of future warfare. Imagine a world where decisions about who lives and who dies are made by an AI algorithm with no human oversight. The potential for such a system to be hijacked or abused by malicious actors is terrifying. And the risk of unintended escalation is enormous. With AI determining the course of warfare, the distinction between combatants and civilians could blur, leading to devastating consequences. And perhaps most chilling of all is the idea of a global AI elite, a small group of powerful corporations and governments who control the AI infrastructure, dictating the terms of life for billions. These entities could use AI not only for control but also for profit, exploiting data, resources, and labor on a scale never before seen. With AI at their disposal, they could enforce their dominance by using algorithms to predict and manipulate human behavior, ensuring that their power remains unchallenged. The fear of AI tyranny is not merely a product of science fiction, it is a very real possibility if we do not take immediate and drastic action to regulate the development and deployment of artificial intelligence. In 2025, we may be faced with a choice: embrace AI as a tool for progress, or allow it to become the very thing that strips us of our freedoms, our autonomy, and our humanity. The rise of AI tyranny could very well be the defining struggle of the next decade. How we navigate this challenge could determine the future of civilization itself. In the face of such a monumental shift, it's crucial that we remain vigilant. AI has the potential to be a force for good, but only if we ensure that it is developed and used responsibly. The question is, will we be able to keep AI from becoming the tool of tyranny? Or will we find ourselves trapped in a future where our every move is monitored, controlled, and manipulated by machines? The battle for our freedom may soon be a battle against the very technology we have created. As we approach 2025, one of the most terrifying predictions is the potential for a global economic collapse. In recent years, we've witnessed a rising tide of debt, inflation, and financial instability. Governments and central banks, already stretched thin, may struggle to keep economies afloat in the face of growing challenges. If these trends continue, we could be heading toward a massive, worldwide financial crisis that leaves millions without jobs, homes, or basic necessities. The pandemic has already exposed the fragility of global economies. With supply chains disrupted, unemployment rates soaring, and government stimulus packages barely keeping pace with the economic fallout. But 2025 could see these issues deepen. As countries grapple with the aftermath of ongoing health crises and social unrest, many may be forced to take drastic measures, including austerity policies, mass layoffs, and cuts to essential services. These actions could trigger widespread protests, strikes, and civil unrest as people demand action from their governments. One of the main drivers of a potential economic collapse is the unsustainable level of global debt. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has already warned that debt levels in many countries are reaching crisis levels. In 2025, this could lead to defaults, bankruptcies, And a wave of financial instability. As countries default on their debts or devalue their currencies, the global financial system could unravel, causing a domino effect of economic decline. Another contributing factor to a potential economic collapse is the rise of automation and AI. As machines take over more jobs, millions of workers could find themselves displaced with no clear path to re-employment. In 2025, this could exacerbate wealth inequality, as those who control AI and automation reap the benefits while the working class struggles to survive. The rapid pace of technological advancement could leave entire industries obsolete, leading to massive layoffs and social unrest. At the same time, trade wars, geopolitical tensions, and climate change could further destabilize global markets. The interconnectedness of the global economy means that a downturn in one region can quickly spread across the world, leading to widespread unemployment, poverty, and political instability. In 2025, we could see countries turn inward, retreating into nationalism and protectionism as they struggle to maintain their economic power. This could lead to a breakdown in global cooperation, making it even harder to address the mounting challenges facing the world. The economic collapse of 2025 could be more than just a financial crisis, it could be the beginning of a global shift in power. As economies falter, new power structures could emerge, with wealthy elites and powerful corporations consolidating control over resources and wealth. The middle class, already shrinking, could be decimated, leaving the world divided between the ultra-rich and the impoverished. In this scenario, millions of people could find themselves in a struggle for survival, fighting against a system that prioritizes profit over people. Governments could become more authoritarian, using surveillance and AI to maintain control over their populations. The collapse of the global economy could mark the beginning of a new era, one where the divide between the rich and poor becomes even more pronounced, and the dream of a stable, prosperous future fades into the past. As we move closer to 2025, it's clear that the global economic system is on the brink. If we don't take drastic action now, the economic collapse could become a harsh reality. As we look toward 2025, the decline of Western powers, particularly the United States and European nations, seems increasingly inevitable. For decades, the West has dominated global politics, economics, and military influence. However, the rise of emerging powers, the erosion of trust in Western institutions, and internal divisions are signaling a dramatic shift in the global balance of power. The United States, once the undisputed global leader, has already begun showing signs of weakening influence. Internal polarization, political instability, and economic challenges are undermining its ability to project power effectively on the world stage. The once unshakable dominance of the US dollar is also facing growing competition, particularly from China's increasing use of the yuan in international trade. The US's inability to address its domestic problems while managing global tensions could leave it vulnerable to further geopolitical isolation. Europe, too, faces a grim future. The European Union, once a symbol of cooperation and strength, is grappling with rising nationalism, economic stagnation, and political fragmentation. The fallout from Brexit has exposed the cracks in the EU's unity. While nations like Hungary, Poland, and Italy are veering away from democratic norms and aligning more closely with autocratic regimes. As European powers struggle to maintain their unity, they risk losing their influence on the global stage, particularly as new alliances and power centers form elsewhere. China and Russia are positioning themselves to fill the void left by the West's decline. China's Belt and Road Initiative is expanding its influence in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, while Russia's growing military presence in Europe and the Middle East challenges Western power. As these nations strengthen their alliances and assert their global leadership, the West's dominance could quickly fade. In 2025, we could witness a world where Western nations no longer hold the reins of global influence. The US may find itself sidelined as new geopolitical alliances form around China, Russia, and other emerging powers. This shift could bring about a new era of competition, with the West struggling to adapt to a world where it no longer leads the pack. The decline of Western powers signals a dangerous transition. As global influence shifts, the values and ideals associated with Western democracy, freedom, human rights, and liberal capitalism may be increasingly challenged. In the absence of strong Western leadership, authoritarian regimes could rise to prominence, shaping a world where democracy and individual rights are less of a priority. This shift could leave the global order fractured and unpredictable, making 2025 a critical turning point in the world's power dynamics. As we approach 2025, one of the most pressing challenges the world faces is the looming food and water crises. These fundamental resources are increasingly under threat due to a combination of climate change, population growth, political instability, and economic inequality. The consequences are already beginning to show. And if these trends continue, the future could be more dire than we imagine. Climate change is one of the biggest drivers of these crises. Droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather patterns are already affecting crop yields and water supplies. In regions like sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Asia, where agriculture is heavily reliant on seasonal rainfall, changing weather patterns are leading to crop failures and food shortages. In 2024, for example, widespread droughts in the Horn of Africa left millions without access to food. A problem that could worsen in the coming years as temperatures rise and precipitation becomes even more erratic. Water scarcity is another growing issue. By 2025, over half of the world's population is projected to live in areas facing high water stress. Many of these regions are already experiencing severe water shortages. And with increasing demand from urbanization and agriculture, the situation will only worsen. Countries like India and China, with large populations and booming economies, are already facing water shortages. And tensions over shared water resources are increasing. In places like the Middle East, where water is already scarce, conflicts over access to water could escalate, exacerbating regional instability. The economic impact of food and water crises is already being felt in many parts of the world. As food prices rise and access to clean water becomes more limited, inequalities between rich and poor nations, as well as within countries, will grow wider. Poorer nations and vulnerable populations will bear the brunt of these shortages, leading to increased poverty, hunger, and migration. Even wealthier nations are not immune. As food prices soar and the availability of clean water becomes more uncertain, the economic strain could further destabilize global markets, with trade disruptions and rising costs affecting industries worldwide. By 2025, the food and water crises will no longer be distant problems, they will be immediate and urgent challenges that require global cooperation and innovative solutions. Failure to address these issues could lead to widespread suffering, conflict, and displacement, with millions of people facing hunger and thirst on an unprecedented scale. The clock is ticking, and without significant action now, the consequences could be catastrophic for generations to come. As we move closer to 2025, The frequency and intensity of natural disasters are predicted to reach unprecedented levels, marking a new era of devastation. While natural disasters have always been part of Earth's history, the combination of climate change, environmental degradation, and overpopulation is driving us into a new phase, one where catastrophic events occur with greater regularity, disrupting communities, economies, and entire ecosystems. We are already seeing early signs of this escalation. Hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and earthquakes are becoming more powerful and unpredictable. Take, for instance, the record-breaking wildfires that ravaged parts of Australia and the US in recent years, or the extreme flooding that displaced millions in Pakistan and Europe. Scientists are predicting that by 2025, these extreme weather events could occur with even more devastating consequences. Wildfires, which have become more frequent and intense in places like California, will continue to ravage landscapes, destroying forests, homes, and wildlife at a terrifying pace. Floods are another disaster on the rise. Warmer temperatures are causing more moisture to be absorbed by the atmosphere, leading to heavier rainfalls and subsequent flooding. In the next few years, cities across the globe, especially those in low-lying coastal areas, are expected to face increasingly frequent flooding events. From Southeast Asia to the Americas, flooding could become a regular occurrence, with countries ill-prepared for the volume of water that will inundate their streets, homes, and infrastructure. The consequences of such events will be catastrophic, leading to widespread displacement and loss of life. The worst part is that many of these disasters are not only more intense but are also more interconnected. For example, an increase in ocean temperatures can trigger stronger hurricanes, which in turn can cause massive flooding as they move inland. Rising sea levels, caused by melting polar ice caps, will exacerbate the situation by submerging coastal cities and displacing millions of people. Regions that have already experienced extreme weather will likely face even worse conditions. Areas that are not prepared to cope with such events will see their infrastructures collapse, leading to economic devastation, loss of livelihood, and a spike in humanitarian crises. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, too, could become more frequent. Some experts suggest that there may be a greater number of seismic shifts as a result of the increased pressure on Earth's tectonic plates due to melting ice caps and shifting ecosystems. These events, which have the potential to kill thousands and leave vast areas uninhabitable, are already happening with alarming frequency. Japan, Indonesia, and countries along the Pacific Ring of Fire are particularly vulnerable to such events. And experts predict that more powerful quakes could strike these regions in the near future. While the risk of these natural disasters increases, the world remains unprepared. Governments are struggling to fund adequate disaster preparedness and response measures. And as the scale of these events grows, resources are stretched thinner than ever. By 2025, the combination of climate change, overcrowded cities, and environmental mismanagement will likely make it impossible to avoid catastrophic natural disasters. Global cooperation will be critical. But political tensions and a lack of commitment to meaningful action could leave us helpless in the face of these impending calamities. In the face of such overwhelming challenges, we are left with a stark reality: the natural disasters of 2025 could feel like the biblical calamities of old, where entire cities and regions are left in ruins. The rising tide of extreme weather, geological upheaval, and ecosystem collapse could fundamentally reshape life on Earth in ways we can scarcely imagine. With no clear solution in sight, The only certainty is that humanity will have to grapple with the consequences of a planet that is rapidly spiraling toward an uncertain and dangerous future. As the world moves toward 2025, we may witness a gradual unraveling of societal values and a decline in moral standards. The rapid pace of technological advancement, combined with political instability and economic inequality, is creating a perfect storm for widespread social decay. The traditional norms and moral compass that once held societies together are being replaced by self-interest, polarization, and a growing sense of distrust. In the face of economic instability and growing inequality, many individuals will likely turn inward, focusing on personal survival rather than the well-being of their communities. This shift will further fuel division, as social bonds erode and people become more isolated. Social media, which has already contributed to a breakdown in communication, will intensify the spread of misinformation and reinforce echo chambers, pushing individuals into extreme ideological positions. Moreover, the increasing reliance on technology, particularly artificial intelligence, will lead to a dehumanization of interactions. As automation replaces jobs and people become more dependent on AI systems for decision-making, the human element in relationships and communities will fade. The sense of personal responsibility and empathy could diminish, leading to a more fragmented society where individuals struggle to find common ground. With rising social unrest, crime rates may increase as people fight for limited resources. As poverty spreads and more communities are displaced due to natural disasters or political instability, violence and lawlessness could become more prevalent. Governments, already weakened by internal divisions, may struggle to maintain order, further contributing to a breakdown of social structures. The decline in moral standards will also be evident in the political realm. Corruption, dishonesty, and greed could become the norm as leaders prioritize personal gain over the welfare of their citizens. The lack of trust in political systems could lead to widespread apathy or even the rise of authoritarian regimes, where individual freedoms are sacrificed in the name of security. Ultimately, this moral and social decline could lead to a world where cooperation and compassion are in short supply. As the fabric of society unravels, people may become increasingly indifferent to the suffering of others, focusing only on their survival. In such a world, it will be harder to find hope or meaning, as the basic principles of empathy and solidarity are eroded by fear, greed, and division. As we head toward 2025, the threats posed by space, specifically asteroids and solar flares, could become increasingly dire. While these events may seem like distant possibilities, recent advancements in space exploration and research have highlighted the real and present dangers that lie beyond our planet. Asteroids, for example, have always been a looming threat. Scientists have identified numerous near-Earth objects, NEOs, that are on collision courses with our planet. While many of these objects are small and pose little risk, larger asteroids capable of causing catastrophic damage still exist, and some are yet to be detected. A significant impact could lead to devastating global consequences, triggering massive loss of life, fires, tsunamis, and long-term climate changes, similar to the event believed to have wiped out the dinosaurs. As our technology advances, the ability to detect and deflect these objects improves. But the reality is that we are not fully prepared for such an event. In addition to asteroids, solar flares pose another growing concern. These bursts of radiation from the sun can cause widespread disruption to Earth's power grids, communication systems, and satellite networks. The 2025 solar maximum, which marks the peak of the sun's 11-year cycle of activity, could bring an increased risk of massive solar flares. If a flare powerful enough to affect Earth strikes, it could knock out satellite systems, disrupt GPS and even trigger widespread electrical blackouts, leaving nations vulnerable to economic and communication collapse. While space agencies around the world are monitoring these threats, the unpredictable nature of both asteroids and solar flares means that we could be caught off guard. As space exploration continues to evolve, these cosmic dangers are no longer distant threats but real risks that could severely impact our planet's safety and stability. The possibility of such catastrophic events, combined with our growing dependence on technology, makes the stakes higher than ever before. As we look toward 2025, one of the most profound and potentially unsettling changes could be the shift in global spirituality. With the world facing increasing challenges, economic instability, environmental disasters, and social unrest, many people are turning away from traditional religious practices and seeking new forms of spiritual expression. This shift is not only altering the way individuals experience faith, but it also holds the potential to reshape entire societies in ways we might not yet fully understand. In recent years, there has been a significant decline in the influence of organized religions in many parts of the world, especially in the West. Once dominant faiths are facing declining membership, with younger generations particularly disillusioned with traditional dogma and institutions. Instead, many are turning to more individualized forms of spirituality, blending elements of various religious traditions, esoteric practices, and even New Age philosophies. This trend is not limited to the West. Many countries around the world are witnessing a similar shift, with people seeking spiritual fulfillment outside the bounds of established religious frameworks. What's even more striking is the rise of secular spiritual movements. Meditation, mindfulness, and self-improvement practices are now becoming central to people's spiritual lives. Rather than following traditional religious paths, individuals are focusing on personal growth, mental wellness, and finding inner peace. These practices, often divorced from any religious context, are shaping a new form of spirituality that prioritizes individual experience and enlightenment over community worship or doctrinal beliefs. This shift is, in part, a response to the increasing sense of existential crisis facing humanity. Climate change, global conflicts, and the threat of pandemics have caused many to question the meaning of life, the nature of the universe, and humanity's place in it. In the face of such overwhelming uncertainty, people are turning inward, seeking spiritual practices that offer personal solace and empowerment rather than relying on institutional structures. However, the rise of secular and individualized spirituality may also bring challenges. While it offers personal fulfillment, it lacks the sense of community, shared values, and collective moral guidance that many traditional religions provide. This can lead to feelings of isolation, fragmentation, and moral ambiguity. Without a unified spiritual framework, people may struggle to find common ground in an increasingly divided world. Moreover, the blending of various spiritual practices can lead to confusion and a lack of deep understanding of any single tradition. As people pick and choose elements from different religions or philosophies, they may lose sight of the deeper meanings behind those teachings. The danger lies in a superficial approach to spirituality, where practices are adopted without truly understanding their roots or purpose. The increasing prominence of spirituality in digital spaces further complicates this shift. Online platforms, social media, and virtual communities have become the new churches for millions, where people can seek spiritual guidance, share experiences, and discuss philosophical ideas. While this digital shift offers accessibility and convenience, it can also dilute the depth of spiritual experiences. People may begin to replace face-to-face connections with virtual ones, leading to a sense of disconnection in an already fragmented society. In the coming years, this shift in global spirituality could have significant cultural, political, and societal implications. As traditional religious institutions lose influence, the values they once upheld, community service, moral behavior, and social justice, may also erode. Or alternatively, be reinterpreted through the lens of new spiritual practices. At the same time, the rise of individualized spirituality could lead to a greater emphasis on personal autonomy. But this might also undermine collective efforts to address global challenges. Ultimately, the shift in global spirituality is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it offers individuals the freedom to find their own path to spiritual fulfillment, free from the constraints of traditional institutions. On the other hand, it raises the possibility of a more fragmented, divided world, where people's sense of purpose and community becomes increasingly individualized, and global issues become harder to address in a collective manner. As we move into 2025, the trajectory of this spiritual evolution will undoubtedly shape the way humanity confronts the immense challenges of the future. As we approach 2025, the final prophecy looms ever closer: will humanity face an apocalypse? Or will we undergo a profound transformation that reshapes our very existence? This question encapsulates the dual nature of our current trajectory. On one hand, the world seems to be hurtling towards chaos, a world of unchecked crises, increasing division, and accelerating existential threats. On the other hand, there is the possibility that all these struggles could lead to a new era of growth, awareness, and evolution. The idea of an apocalypse, as commonly understood, evokes images of sudden catastrophe, wars, natural disasters, widespread disease, and the collapse of societies. It is an end, a cataclysmic event that signals the destruction of the old order. However, if we look at the roots of the word apocalypse, it is derived from the Greek word apokalypsis, meaning unveiling or revelation. In this sense, the apocalypse is not merely an end, but a profound revelation, a moment of truth, where the illusions and systems that have held society together are stripped away, revealing what has been hidden for so long. In this light, the apocalypse could represent a time of reckoning, a wake-up call that forces us to confront our flaws, our mistakes, and our unsustainable ways of life. Many ancient prophecies and spiritual traditions speak of a time when humanity would face its darkest hour, only to be awakened and transformed into something greater. Whether we look at the Mayan calendar, the teachings of Nostradamus, or modern esoteric beliefs, there is a consistent theme: humanity will face a great trial. But this trial will ultimately lead to a rebirth, a transformation into a higher state of being. For some, this transformation might manifest as a spiritual awakening, a global shift towards unity, and a new consciousness that transcends the divisions and conflicts of the past. However, the path to this transformation will not be easy. As the world continues to face escalating challenges, the tension between destruction and renewal will only grow. The collapse of old systems may be necessary for something new to emerge. But this collapse will be marked by suffering, conflict, and uncertainty. It is in this crucible that humanity will be tested. Will we find the strength and wisdom to overcome these trials? Or will we fall victim to the very forces that threaten to tear us apart? Some see this as a call to action, a reminder that we have the power to shape our own future. The decisions we make in the coming years will determine whether we move towards apocalyptic destruction or toward a transformative rebirth. The key lies in our collective ability to recognize the interconnectedness of all life. To embrace empathy and cooperation over division and conflict. And to take responsibility for the world we are creating. If we can harness our collective strength, wisdom, and creativity, there is hope that we can navigate this period of turmoil and emerge stronger than ever. Others, however, believe that the forces driving the world toward crisis are too powerful to overcome. Economic collapse, environmental degradation, social unrest, and technological threats may ultimately bring us to a breaking point. In this scenario, the transformation might come in the form of humanity's resilience and ability to adapt in the face of overwhelming odds. Perhaps, as the old systems crumble, new ways of living, new philosophies, and new technologies will rise from the ashes to guide us into a more sustainable and equitable future. Ultimately, the final prophecy is not set in stone. It is not predetermined whether we will experience an apocalypse or a transformation, it is up to us to choose. The coming years will reveal whether we are capable of confronting the challenges ahead with courage, wisdom, and unity, or whether we will succumb to the forces of division, greed, and fear. What is clear is that the world is changing. And we are at a crossroads. The future is uncertain. But the power to shape it lies within our hands. As we stand on the precipice of 2025, we must ask ourselves, are we ready to face the trials that lie ahead? Will we rise to the occasion and transform our world? Or will we allow the forces of destruction to consume us? Only time will tell. But the answers are waiting for us to discover.